My name is Eleanor Brooks, a 32-year-old single mother to my vibrant, curious son, Caleb. I balance 2 jobs and late-night freelance projects to keep us going. Life is far from simple, but I've woven resilience from the fragments others tried to crush. The night that changed everything unfolded at my cousin's engagement celebration. Amelia Foster, the bride-to-be, shone with elegance in a silk dress that likely cost more than my monthly rent. We hadn't spoken in months, not since she made a biting remark at a family event about my life being a pile of burdens and missteps. I let it pass then, offering a smile to avoid conflict, but the wound lingered. When the invitation arrived, lavish, gold-embossed and ostentatious, I hesitated. My mother called multiple times, urging me to attend. "Just show up, Eleanor. Be gracious. Don't stir trouble." That was her constant advice. So I went for her, for Caleb, for the sake of appearances. I wore my best dress, slightly worn and snug, borrowed shoes from a neighbour, and let Caleb pick my necklace. A silver star, he said, matched his own. We stepped into the upscale restaurant, crisp linens, soft lights, wine glasses gleaming like trophies, and I felt it instantly, the undercurrent of judgment, the forced smiles, the roles already cast. But that night, I didn't know I'd leave unbroken, unbowed, with the narrative shifting and someone standing up, not for appearances, but for truth. Amelia and I were close as children, but somewhere along the way, between college acceptances and family gatherings, she became the shining star, and I became the overlooked shadow. She earned degrees with honours, travelled the world and dated successful men. I became a mother at 23, raising Caleb alone and rebuilding my life time and again. Our differences weren't just in our paths, but in how our family framed them. Amelia was the triumph. I was the lesson in what to avoid. At the dinner, I was seated at the table's far end beside my mother and Aunt Clara, who spent the opening minutes showing me photos of her cat's costume and acting as if I existed only as Caleb's mom. Amelia glided through the room like royalty, offering air kisses and polished compliments. She barely noticed me, and when she did, her courtesy was sharp, cutting. "Here alone?" she asked, her tone pointed. "Just me and Caleb," I replied calmly. "The kids' area is over there," she said, turning away before I could respond. My mother whispered, "Keep your head down, Eleanor. You look presentable tonight." "Not radiant. Not I'm proud of you. Just presentable, as if that was the limit for a single mother. Quiet, polite, invisible." I tried to blend in to endure the evening. Caleb sat at the children's table, sketching airplanes on a napkin and laughing with strangers in that effortless way kids do. I passed dishes and forced smiles, navigating shallow small talk and subtle disdain from relatives who hadn't reached out in years, yet felt entitled to judge my life. Beneath the clinking glasses and rehearsed toasts ran a current of criticism. Every glance, every word signalled I was tolerated, not embraced. My late-night shifts, my bedtime stories for Caleb, my unpaid bills, they meant nothing to them. I wasn't a story worth telling. I was a warning shared in hushed tones. Yet I stayed for Caleb, for the girl I once was, who believed families were safe havens. I thought if I smiled enough, played along, someone might see me. But deep down I knew they wanted me silent, small. And for too long, I'd given them that. The pivotal moment came during dinner, after plates were cleared and wine glasses refilled. Amelia rose with practised elegance, tapping her glass with a silver spoon, her engagement ring catching the light like a beacon. All eyes turned to her. "I'm so grateful to be surrounded by love tonight," she said with a flawless smile. Polite claps followed, a few soft cheers. Then her gaze fixed on me. "I hope," she said with a smirk, "I never end up like some alone past 30 raising a kid on my own." The room burst into laughter, not hesitant but bold, harsh, unrestrained. My Uncle Thomas, her father, slammed the table and added, "You know how it is. No one wants damaged goods." Even my mother gave a faint chuckle, covering her mouth as if it lessened the sting. I sat frozen, my face burning, my heart pounding like it wanted to flee. I stared at my plate, clutching my napkin so tightly it crumpled. Caleb, unaware, kept drawing his airplanes across the room. I wanted to vanish. No one spoke up. No one said, "That's enough." Even those who looked uneasy stayed silent. It was simpler that way. I'd been the family's failure, the cautionary tale for so long that challenging it felt inconvenient. Amelia, pleased with the laughter, moved on, joking about how Nathan, her fiancé, would never survive marriage without her choosing his clothes. The laughs were softer now, some shifted uncomfortably, but no one intervened. Aunt Clara leaned over and murmured, "Don't take it personally, dear. Amelia just loves attention, but it wasn't about attention. It was about power, about ensuring I knew I didn't belong. I felt like a ghost in that chair, seen but not human, my worth reduced to a cruel jab, my life distilled into a dismissive quip. For a moment I considered standing, firing back, leaving in defiance. But I didn't, not yet. I scanned the faces of those who claimed to care and saw their love was conditional, wrapped in silence and shame. I sat there, hands trembling, chest tight, mind racing, but my face remained calm. I told myself I am not their story. I thought of Caleb, safe in his world of crayons and dreams. I vowed their words wouldn't redefine me. Unbeknownst to me, someone else had heard it all, and he wasn't staying quiet. The room buzzed with soft chuckles when Nathan stood. He didn't speak at first, just pushed back his chair and walked, not to the bar or restroom, but to me. The room stilled. Fawkes paused. Amelia stopped talking, her eyes narrowing. He stopped beside me and said, "There's something everyone needs to hear." The silence was heavy, suffocating. Amelia blinked, confused. Uncle Thomas set down his drink. My mother finally met my gaze. Nathan faced the room, his voice steady but firm. "Lillian," he said, using Amelia's middle name. "That wasn't a joke. It was cruel." She tried to interrupt, but he raised a hand. "I need to say this." He looked at those who'd laughed. "You treat Eleanor like she's a failure, like her life's a punchline. But she's the strongest person here." I froze, my breath caught. He continued. 2 years ago I lost my job. I spiraled, drank too much, hit rock bottom. Amelia told me to get over it. Thomas called me weak. But Eleanor, she checked in every week. The room was motionless. She didn't just offer words. She gave her time, helped with my resume, connected me to a contact, even watched my nephew so I could interview. He turned to me. "You barely knew me, but you were there when no one else was. You pulled me through without asking for anything." He faced the crowd again. "When you mock her, you're not just mocking a single mum. You're mocking the person who helped me rebuild, mocking true strength." The silence deepened. Amelia stood, voice sharp. "What are you doing?" "Being honest," Nathan said calmly. "I'm done with fake toasts and shallow praise. I won't let you tear down someone good to feel superior." Her eyes flashed. "Are you trying to humiliate me?" "No," he replied. "You did that yourself." Some looked away. A cousin stared into her glass. Thomas's face reddened. My mother sat rigid, hands clenched. Then Amelia asked what others were thinking. "Do you have feelings for her?" Nathan looked at her, almost unrecognizing. "I respect her, deeply. If you spent less time chasing perfection and more time listening, you'd see why that matters." His words struck harder than anything that night. It wasn't just about me. It was about values, about what we defend and what we ridicule, about who we uplift and who we ignore. I glanced around. No one spoke. The judgment that once roared now hung like a fog, pierced by Nathan's quiet resolve. For the first time someone stood up for me, publicly, boldly, not in a private message or hushed apology. He shifted the spotlight from my shame to their cruelty. I was no longer the punchline. Nathan's words left the room frozen. The laughter stopped, the glasses silent, the air thick with tension. Amelia stood, arms crossed, face tight with anger, searching for support, but no one moved. Uncle Thomas muttered, "He's just emotional. Don't take it seriously." Nathan ignored him, his gaze fixed on the table. "Emotional?" he asked. "Let's talk about raising a child alone, working 2 jobs, giving your time without asking for anything. That's not weakness. That's strength." Amelia's eyes narrowed. "You're making this about her." "No," he said softly. "You did." "I'm just not letting it slide." He turned to me. "You didn't deserve that," he said gently. "None of it." My throat tightened. I wanted to speak, maybe thank him, but words failed. I nodded, and it was enough. My mother looked at me, truly looked, her eyes hinting at regret, perhaps seeing the cost of her silence. I expected no apologies, not from her, Amelia, or anyone. But something shifted, like a gasp after too long underwater. Nathan didn't touch me or play saviour. He stood close, his presence saying, "You're not alone." In that stillness I saw beyond vengeance, recognition. They hadn't broken me. They'd exposed themselves. And I didn't shrink. I sat taller than ever. I rose, not in anger or shame, but steady, whole. I looked at the faces that had mocked, pitied, ignored me. Amelia sat rigid, cheeks flushed with fury. Thomas reached for his wine, pretending it didn't matter. My mother stared at her glass, hands trembling. But I was done with them. I turned to Caleb, who looked up from his airplane sketch with a grin as bright as daylight. "Ready to go, sweetheart?" I asked. He nodded, slipping his hand into mine. We didn't say goodbye, there was no need. Passing Nathan, he gave a small nod, quiet, not showy. "You were seen. You mattered." I held Caleb's drawing in one hand, his fingers in the other, and walked out, head high, not because I'd been defended, but because I'd always been enough. They just hadn't seen it. I had strength is often seen as loud, bold, unyielding, but sometimes it's quiet, showing up despite judgment, standing firm when alone, loving a child through a world that shames you for it. Eleanor Brooks didn't lash out or storm off to prove a point. She stayed, stood, and revealed more than a room's cruelty. She showed courage that speaks softly but resounds. Amelia thought the night was hers, that she could diminish someone to shine brighter. But real power isn't in dominating a room. It's in truth without apology. Nathan, by speaking up, showed that silence can enable cruelty. But one voice can shift everything. If you've ever felt like an outsider, deemed less for not fitting their mould, know this. You owe no one your silence or shame. The most powerful act is refusing to shrink. If this story resonates, share it. Comment if you've chosen dignity over drama. Like and subscribe for more stories that remind you don't need permission to claim your space. You belong. As Eleanor walked into the night, Caleb's hand in hers, the air felt lighter, unburdened. No fanfare, no grand exit, just truth and the quiet power of being seen. She didn't leave defeated. She left whole. Perhaps someone in that room will pause before mistaking silence for weakness again. Because the truest revenge is living your truth fearlessly. If this moved you, like, share, comment, and remember, your story matters.